Morning, everyone. Trust you are all well. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Leah Bas Bible, Rabbi Yaakov Tzvi ben David Aryeh, that's the late Rabbi Sachs, Sivia Bas Mordechai, Avram ben David Slavin, Sivur of Pegala Bas Reuven Baruch, Shana ben Eleli, Beina Bas Bible, from Shoshana Bas Yaakov Shmuel, Kayla Bela Bas Henach, Yirmiyahu Chio ben Moshe Eliezer, Sarah Malka Bas ben Yomin, as well as the Yortzites for today, which are as follows. Yehudis Bas Shmuel Balka, Mordechai Moshe ben Aryeh Rose, Yitzchak ben Favel Ridge, Shalom ben Mordechai Rose, Wolf Yaakov ben Motel Dudostak Wolf, Elka Bas Daniel Ross. Wishing each and every one of their respective families long life and only simchas, and good morning to Michelle, Peter, Estelle, Rachel, and all of those that are joining us this beautiful morning to speak about the next of our paths. We started it yesterday when we discussed the concept and notion of faith, something that is so central to Judaism. The word emunah comes from the root in Hebrew of the word uman, which means a specialist, an artisan. And that is the truth about what faith is. We mentioned and compared it to the idea of a muscle that only really is able to function when it is exercised, when it is stretched. And so it is when it comes to our faith, that if it is that it lays dormant, then it is not going to have any capacity, it is not going to have any strength. But if we are able gradually to strengthen that muscle of faith, then we are going to see that we will become artisans, we will become experts, and be able to have our faith remain strong in the face of tremendous adversity and darkness. I think one of the most critical lessons for us is to bear in mind that despite the fact that we are a people of faith, everyone is different and everyone has different levels and expressions of faith. And therefore it is important not for us to impose our faith or our level of faith on others. I'm speaking about the idea of emunah, the faith in God, rather than the idea of the religion itself. But both are true. And therefore when it comes, for example, to people that are going through challenges, illness, ordeals, financial struggles and hardship, it is imperative that we don't all of a sudden just say, well, it'll all be all right, you'll be fine, you're going to get through this, have faith. That's not the answer. The answer is that when they are feeling pain, we must feel pain. We must be there to carry them through difficult challenges and ordeals, because we all have our faith tested at different times in our lives. The second point is that the only way that we can actually discover God is when we do not make ourselves a God. That is one of the points that Rabbi Sachs made yesterday. When we see ourselves as fallible, when we recognize our failings, our frailties, the fact that we are dependent on something bigger than ourselves, that we are finite beings, and that there is an infinite being, then we can find God. I think one of the other aspects of faith that Rabbi Sachs speaks about, and I'm jumping around, is the idea that we, having faith, recognize that we are all fragments in something which is across the millennia, across the spectrum of time. In other words, we are just a small fragment, but nonetheless, we are a fragment. We are a significant particle in this world. In fact, we are described as a Tselem Elokim, made in the image of God, right? And that means that we have a bit of God and our soul inside each and every one of us. And therefore, we have to have faith. Having faith in God means having faith in ourselves. We spoke about this in the context, I think, of Rav Tzadok HaKohen, the great thinker and philosopher and mystic. And he mentioned the idea that part of our faith has to come from the fact that we believe in ourselves. If we do not believe in who we are actually denying an aspect of our faith in God, because God made us, and he imparted in each and every one of us his image in us. There is this soul that is the essence of who we are, and therefore we need to recognize that there are no By having faith in God and recognizing that we do have this chelek Elokai mimal, this divine spark inside us. Therefore, there, in essence, are no limitations. Everything and anything is possible because, as we said, and we say every day, because God is with us. That's what we say in Psalm 23. Let me read to you a fascinating story. I'd heard the story once before, but I didn't actually know that this came from Rabbi Yosef Schneerson. So let me read you the story. It's a beautiful, beautiful story that I always carry with me, and it keeps me going. Rabbi Yosef Schneerson ran a seminary in Russia. When the communists came to power, they ordered all religious seminaries to close. Rabbi Schneerson defied the order and continued teaching religion. One day, a government officer confronted and ordered him to close his school. The Rebbe refused. The officer pulled out a gun and he said, "You will close the school or you will be killed." Rabbi Schneerson showed no emotion and quietly responded, "The school will remain open." Listen carefully to what happened next. The officer could not help but being impressed by the rabbi's calm demeanor and complete lack of fear. "Don't you take me seriously?" he said. "Aren't you afraid of dying?" The rabbi responded calmly. Listen to these words. "Someone who has only one world and many gods is afraid of dying. Someone who has two worlds and only one God has no fear." Schneerson's yeshiva remained open. In 1940, he transplanted it to the United States. Today, it has branches throughout the world. Russian communism is no more. This idea that when we recognize that there are only two worlds, this world and the next world, and there is only one God, ein od milvado, there is nothing but God in essence, and therefore that is when I keep that close to my chest, then it is something which keeps me going. It gives me faith. I have no fear anymore because ultimately everything is determined by God. Everything is all determined by God. There's an amazing story that was on Facebook. I'd heard it before, but hadn't seen it for a while, about about Natan Sharansky. Natan Sharansky, of course, the great refusenik, who suffered so much at the hands of the communists, and he was in a line. I guess it was some type of line in Israel, in a mall or a supermarket, and he had in the top of his pocket of his shirt, he had this little scrumpled up book that was sticking out. And the guy that was standing next to him says, "Oh, what's that?" He says, "That's my Tehillim, that's my Psalms. I always keep it with me. I've kept it with me from all through when I was in prison in Russia." And so the man says, "Wow, you carry that with you everywhere?" He said, "Rabbi," and Natan Sharansky said without missing a beat, "I don't carry it with me, it carries me wherever I go." And that in essence is faith. Faith is the idea that we are carried along whatever challenges along the bumpy road of life by the Almighty. And therefore, if we are able to stay strong, then we will come through whatever challenges we face. Isidore Rabbi, winner of a Nobel Prize in Physics, was once asked why he became a scientist. With this, we'll conclude. He replied, "My mother made me a scientist without me ever knowing it. Every other child will come back from school and ask, 'What did you learn today?' But my mother used to ask a different question. 'Izzy,' she used to say, 'did you ask a good question today?' That made the difference. Asking good questions made me a scientist." And Judaism, as we've mentioned, friends, time and again, is a religion of questions. The greatest prophets ask questions of God. The book of Eov, the most searching of all explorations of human suffering, is a book of questions asked by man, to which God replies with his answers. And therefore, faith does not mean that we don't ask questions. Faith means that we have the strength and courage to ask those questions, and we look for answers. And sometimes there aren't going to be any answers. We cannot find any answers to such questions as, why do bad things happen to good people? Why do the righteous suffer? Why is there illness in this world? Why is there COVID in this world? But faith is living in this world with the questions. Somebody was in a concentration camp and they had questions. They said, "I've got a lot of questions of God." and I want him to give me answers. And the other man said to him, God has all the answers. And he'll say to you, if you want the answers, come up here. And from my vantage point, you'll be able to understand and you'll be able to have the answers to all your questions. But the man said to him, me, I'm happy. I'd rather live with the questions down here for the time being, rather than being upstairs and no longer having the questions and having the answers. And I think that is something that we have to, as people of faith, have to learn to live with. The fact that we are finite beings. We are a mere speck in the course of history, and therefore we are not going to be able to possibly fathom the depths and understanding of everything that is going on in this world, or everything that is going on in history. But faith is living with those doubts, that uncertainty, and I think that is one of the lessons, friends, that we've learned from COVID. The idea that we have to be prepared to live with uncertainty, that we do not have control. Faith is knowing that we don't have control. It's being prepared to let go and knowing that God is carrying you throughout every second of our lives. We're going to stop there. There is much more to say about faith. I hope you found it interesting, and we will continue, please God, tomorrow. And now we continue with Psalm 23, which is very much all about faith. When King David found himself on the run and his life was in danger, and this was from his family and friends, yet he composed this beautiful psalm, which was an expression of his faith, as we shall see. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He causes me to lie down in green pastures. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even as I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You set a table before me in the presence of my adversaries. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord for the length of days. Friends, don't leave. We have the memorial prayer, and then we have the Refuah Shlema prayer. And I have a big question that I just discussed, a moral dilemma for you. I want to share with you in just literally 1 minute. Okay. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishma Es Lebas Bible Rabbi Yaakov Sviben David Arietz Sviben Mordechai from David Slavin Strom Ben Sarah Morris Tzipora Fegelos Ruben Bar Shalom Ben Elili Ben Bas Bible from Moshe Shana Bas Yaakov Shmuel Caleb Ben Bas Henach Yim Yachio Ben Moshe Leza Sarah Marko Bas Ben Yomen Yehudis Bas Shmuel Balkan Mordechai Ben Moshe Ben Aryeh Rose Yitzhak Ben Favo Ridge Shalom Ben Mordechai Rose Yaakov Wolf Yaakov Ben Moto Dodo Stack Wolf Elka Bas Daniel Ross שלחו לי למען בגן עדן תהי מנוחה לאחים ולרחמים יסיראים וששת כנפיו לעולמים ויסוד החצי שעושים אדוני נחלסם וינוחו בשלום משכבם ונאמר Amen. Wish everyone long life, and now Refuah Shlema for all those that are unwell. Once again, Woodside Park in particular, numerous people that we have sadly in hospitals with COVID, and therefore we are davening for them and other people that are unwell. I heard from somebody who works for Hatzalah. They went to one of the hospitals yesterday. It took 4 hours to be admitted. 4 hours. So we are, the NHS is under tremendous strain, and the important thing is that we stay vigilant, keep safe, and keep home as much as we can. So it came to light over the last 48 hours that apparently there is every day at certain hospitals, they have leftover Pfizer vaccine. Now, they can't keep it because only, I think, for 6 hours, and after that you have to dispose of it. So therefore, rather than dispose of it, they will give it to people that turn up on their doorsteps. So the question is, you've heard about this now, many other people have. So many people that are pretty healthy, well, have been rushing down there and, using their elbows to get in line and to get it and to make sure that they found out about it and they got all their families vaccinated. I'm not speaking about from the government, but would you feel comfortable being vaccinated when so many other people haven't? Of course, the government needs to get themselves organized. But I don't know. I find it very, very, very difficult to say that would be the right thing for let's say for our community, if we all heard about it and then we all traipse down there to get on the one hand, you could say, well, it's, if other people want to, they could also find out about it. Nobody's stopping them going, right? But on the other hand, if you have the first one, and this is the critical thing that the doctor said to me, once you have the first one, right? Remember, it's going to go to waste if you don't take it. That's what one of my kids was arguing. If you don't take it, what are they going to do? They're going to literally pour it down the drain. But if you have the first one, it also means that you have to have the second one. So really, potentially, you could be pushing someone further down the line, even though it's only slight, because you have had the first one before them, and therefore you're entitled to have the second one before them as well. So it's an interesting, there are so many of these dilemmas that we are unraveling when it comes to the vaccines. Please God, everyone should be hearing, and the more senior members from our community should be hearing in the next couple of weeks from their doctor's surgeries. I know firsthand from doctors that are vaccinating, so that they are making headway, and as fast as they can, they are vaccinating as many people as they can. So please God, we will all be vaccinated, all those that need it, by the summer. And in the meantime, everyone should look after themselves, keep safe, keep well, keep their faith, and we're looking forward to seeing you throughout the week. Take care. Lovely to see all of you.